I had completed one year of college, and I was in my second year, and it was, I believe, March or April. I can't remember for sure, but I got a draft notice. And I was shocked because I had a full college deferment. So I was like, this is a mistake, you know, I'm going to go down and get this fixed. And so the first place I went was to my college. And I get down there and there's a line of guys lined up. And I go, what are you here for? We got a draft notice. One of the things that I could do, and in high school I did this every night, I did 100 push-ups every night before I went to bed. And I could do one-handed, two-handed, so I was a little bit cocky in the basic training. So I got caught a few times doing different things at different times, and you know they would yell at me, "All right, Smith, give me 20." And so I think the very first time, you know, somebody said, "Give me 20," I said, "Which hand?" And so they didn't like that very much. And after I got, you know, the Colonel's Orderly Award and the 81 millimeter mortar max score, and then the combat proficiency test score, I was getting glaring, you know, from other soldiers that didn't like the fact that I seemed to be getting up and going up there and getting awards all the time. Until finally they announced the Outstanding Trainee of the Cycle, and I got that too. So now I've got a trophy for that. I don't recall I'd ever built a bunker before, so I didn't know what I was supposed to do except to just start digging a hole and try to make it comfortable, because we got to live in this hole for at least the next 30 days. So we built a hole fairly deep so that we could stand, and then our heads would be looking out. Okay, so and then behind us we built two areas to lay down. There's two of us in a bunker, and I'll never forget my bunker mate's name was Robbie. He couldn't stay awake on guard duty. And this would come back to haunt me years later. After I got back from Vietnam, I would have nightmares about this particular time. It turned out that was pretty traumatic for me to not be able to depend on my bunker mate to stay awake. It was my birthday, so I turned 19 that day. So it was January the 11th, 1967. I had to go out that morning, and we went through this village. And one of the things that I learned over there is when you're going through a Vietnamese village is to be aware of who's in the village. So if you see women and children only, and maybe small boys, it's a Viet Cong village, okay? Because they have come and taken all the boys old enough to carry a rifle, which is literally 12, 13 years old. They're already fighting. So we knew it was a Viet Cong village, so we were very careful going through this village. And as we were going through there, I'm looking at every hooch, every person, making sure I'm paying attention so I don't get shot or something happens to me. And we had almost finished walking through the village, and I heard this noise behind me, and it was kind of like this, hooves. And I had recalled as we walked in, there was a small water buffalo tied up, had a ring through its nose and a rope to a stake, and he was tied up by one of the hooches, and he had broke free. And he was running right at me. And I had finally gotten out of the village, and we had come to a rice paddy, and there was a dike. Now a dike is basically the earth brim around the rice paddy. So you have to actually step up to get into the rice paddy. And when I turned and looked and I saw what was happening, this water buffalo had his head down and was coming and going to bury me in that dike. I didn't have any time to react except I had my M16 in my hand, so as I spun around and I'm now facing the water buffalo, I'm unloading 20 rounds into this water buffalo, and I emptied my magazine, 20 rounds. The water buffalo fell right in front of me as far as a need is for me, and he was still had his hind legs pushing, trying to get forward with 20 rounds in him. I don't know how that's possible. My sergeant came running up and with his .45 shot him in the head, and finally he dropped. And the first thing my sergeant said to me is, "Congratulations, Smith, you just cost yourself $300. And I thought, great, it's my birthday. I don't even make that much a month. I don't want to lose a whole month's wages because I killed a water buffalo." So I didn't understand, but later on he came and told me, he said, for every water buffalo the military kills over here, we have to pay the government $300. He said, "It's not going to come out of your pocket, don't worry about it, but I want you to know it's serious what we're doing over here." That was later in the day, but at this point in time we had to climb up this dike and walk out of there, and we went out into the jungle. And as I was going through the jungle, we came to a clearing. And this is amazing, this all happened to me on my birthday, but I had to wait there for the rest of the unit to come up. By the way, I didn't tell you, I was the point man. That's why the buffalo was going to kill me first. So a point man is the one that has to go out in front of the rest of the company, and you are essentially there so that if you surprise the enemy, you're going to alert your company that's behind you. You're likely going to lose your life, but maybe the rest of the company is going to survive. So that was my first job in Vietnam. I didn't realize that was the #1 job to get killed in, but that was me.
Were you in a line formation or a wedge formation?
So we were in a line formation coming through the jungle, and I had, and this is really early in the morning, all of this, so I had a machete and I had cut my way through it, and I was soaking wet at the time. So I stopped because we saw this clearing here, and I could see all the way across to the other side. It was maybe, I'm going to say, 200 yards to the other side, and it's all open ground. And so we're looking at a wood line on the other side of me. Well, I want to wait for my unit to come up so they know what's going on, and I know I'm going to have to get up and walk across this all by myself. So when they get up and see what the situation is, they say, "Okay, go ahead and start, Smith." So I start heading across, and I am looking. I get about halfway across, and I see a bunker that is caved in. So my eyes are trained on that now as I'm walking. So I'm not looking down anywhere or anywhere else, because I think any minute someone's going to jump up from there and start shooting at me. And I got maybe 25 to 30 yards from that bunker, and explosion. I'm blown up in the air. I'm flipped over on my face, and I'm still facing the bunker, but I'm face down. And as soon as that happens in Vietnam, when any round goes off, everybody opens up. So the whole company is firing at this wood line here over my head. I'm laying there on the ground, stunned. I don't know what's happened. I can't feel my legs. I'm pretty certain I've lost both my legs. I think I'm, likely not going to survive this. And yet, I'm still, awake, and I'm thinking, boy, for losing both my legs, I don't feel any pain at this point, So my sergeant finally gets up to me and he rolls me over, and there's a big old hole in the ground, and my boot is smoking. So you head out about 6 o'clock in the evening is when you start out, and then you try to set up for an ambush at night. We had just got to this point, and where that fork is where we set up right there. We set up an M60 machine gun first, and then there were 2 more riflemen, and then me. So I was the third one in from that section. And so as we moved back in there, I took off my backpack and I opened my tripod up and set my M16 down so that it's facing the trail going this way. I had literally just opened the tripod up, and I hear a Viet Cong screaming. Okay, he's yelling, "Ah, my God," something like that, you know. And right away, I become alert, extremely alert, and I see him running just like this, right this way. And I just, right there, and he fell right there in front of me. Oh my gosh, my heart's pounding 100 miles an hour. So that alerted the platoon. Of course, they all got away, and we had to sit there all night long in that position. We couldn't move because the Viet Cong knew where we were. After I was able to get up and move around, we went through his identification, and this soldier was 16 years old. So I'm 19 and he's 16. This is the kind of war we were in. I was the point man at that point again, and I was on my hands and knees crawling through the jungle because I couldn't stand up and walk through it. It was so dense. So I had to get down on my hands and knees, and I had a machete that I was trying to cut through. And I came up, and you know, I'm wielding this machete like crazy, and I don't know why I was not still wielding it, but all of a sudden on my hands and knees, I see this wire right here in front of my eyes, and I just froze, tried not to fall forward into it. My knees were shaking so badly, I thought any minute I'm going to fall forward. It was a booby trap, and it had a wire that ran all the way for 25 yards, and it all had a string of grenades on it, and it was set up to be a mass. If one trips it, it's going to set all of them off. And I wrote home in the letter about it that my sergeant, you know, had congratulated me for finding this that day, and yet I was so scared and so petrified that all I wanted to do was just get out of the country. I just wanted to leave. And that evening, one of the soldiers came down the bunker line to my bunker, and he said, "Hey, anybody been in country 3 months yet?" And I said, right away, I'm trying to figure out if I've been here 3 months. I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, you can go on R&R. Well, R&R is called rest and recuperation. So you get to actually leave the country for a week, 1 week, and then, you know, come back. So I said, "I think I've been in country 3 months." He said, "Okay," write my name down. He says, "Oh, by the way, you know, you have to have $300 to go on R&R, and you got to show that you got it." And I said, "Oh, no problem. I got $300. I've been saving my money." I didn't have $300. I don't even think I had $100 on me, maybe 60. I don't know, because I keep a little bit. I sent most of it home. It wasn't a lot back then, but I kept a little bit. But I knew that I had to get $300 before the morning. So I just went out and I went down the bunker line and I said, you know, "Hey guys," no, I wasn't begging. I was saying, "Anybody want to play poker tonight?" So I got a poker game going that night, and I literally played all night long because I would get up and I would get close and then I'd lose some. And finally, when I hit $300, I picked up my money and said, "I'm going to bed." And they're like, "What? You can't quit now, you're ahead." I go, "That's right. I'm ahead, and I'm leaving tomorrow morning on a helicopter out of here, and I'm going on R&R." So I became a tunnel rat, and I had to be dropped down into tunnels that we're going to explore and then blow up. And so one of the first things you do when you discover one is you have to send somebody in there, and that's the tunnel rat. So you get to go in there with a flashlight, a 45, and some C4 explosives. So that's all you get to go inside this. And you're usually dropped down like this with your hands straight down, and then you've got to go into the tunnel on your hands and knees and go as far as you can to see if you can explore it and see if there's any more rooms. Because over in Vietnam, literally, they had hospitals underground. They had filing cabinets, desks. It's amazing what the Viet Cong had time to build. You know, from the French being there in the 50s, and then, you know, with the U.S. there. So that was very scary to go down in there. I didn't want to go very far back in that tunnel, especially when it came to the point where it curved. And my thought process is I'm going to put the flashlight around the corner and hold it there in case they start firing. maybe I can scurry out of there before, or throw a grenade in there quickly and get out of there. That first time I had to do that was the last time, because I begged to get out of that again. So as I was on guard duty one day, we had gotten some word that some of the soldiers had said they thought that their perimeter terrain had changed, that maybe something had happened, some trees had moved or something. So what the Vietcong would do is they would take bushes or whatever, and they would move them closer, so that you don't realize what they're doing, but they would then be in foxholes or bunkers where they could come right up and literally be just yards from your bunker, and then toss a grenade in there. So being an artist, I thought, I wonder if I could just sketch the perimeter right there in front of me, and then I could put that on the wall of the bunker, and then whoever came in there could look at that and see, has anything changed today from before, from the drawing. And so my sergeant, when he saw what I'd done, he said, that's really a great idea. I want to see if we can maybe do that on a few more bunkers. I want to talk to the captain and see if we can get you freed up to do that. And I knew I would never pass a physical to come home. So when I went in to take the physical, one of the things you have to do is you have to give them a specimen, and that's your, your number 2. So here we go. I got the cup, and I got to go out to the latrine, and a latrine is it's a wooden fixture that's got a wooden seat to sit on, and down below it is a big can where everything falls. And behind it is a door. You open that up and you can pull it out, and you have to burn it. That was one of the jobs I had to do, was burn it. That was really a bad job, but nevertheless, almost everybody over there had to do it at some point. So I head out there, and another soldier was at the same time, he was going after to do it. So we get out there, and I said, please, I literally will go around there and be down below if you will just let me have some of your poop so I can get out of Vietnam. And we managed to hide it behind there, and I walked back up there with his poop in a cup and gave it to him, and I was able to actually leave Vietnam and get out of there. When I got back, I went to the doctor right away because I was really sick. And I had to take like 6 or 7 pills at a time to get rid of this amoeba. It's really hard to get rid of it. When we landed, there were protesters right on the tarmac. Don't ask me how the military let protesters get on the tarmac, but there they were. And so my baggies never got off the airplane, but I did. And when we get off back then, you didn't have a concourse where you could pull up to it and walk in. You had to go downstairs and then walk across the tarmac and then back into the building. And there were protesters all over there screaming and yelling, and they had signs, for baby killers. And I just remember getting off the plane, and we were all kissing the ground because we were glad to be home. And then we had to walk past all of this. They were spitting on us and yelling at us. And I thought to myself, what just what just happened to our country? So this is letters that I wrote home. And so this is a scrapbook of letters that I wrote home. So I have a lot of them in here. In reading them, it refreshed my memory about some of the things that happened over there. It says here, letters from Specialist 4th Class Michael Dwayne Smith.